It's in the name.
Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast. I'm Travis Creasy, and along with me is All-Pro counselor Ben Hayes.
Howdy, partner. Always good to spend a little bit of time with you after a long day at work and do a little podcasting.
And you know, there's no telling what we will find ourselves doing between ministry, your counseling, my podcasting, social media, and of course, our wonderful wives and kids. Sometimes I ask myself, how do we do it all? And my response is usually not very well. And it's very easy to get overwhelmed, especially when you have as hard a time to say no as I do. And then I get you to come along with me or try to talk you and convince you into going. And you're usually hard to tell me no. So with that overwhelming feeling, I have come across something that has helped me focus and become more efficient. And that is called Magic Mind. I started drinking these green shots of goodness in the mornings, and I've noticed a boost of productivity throughout the day.
Yeah, Travis, Magic Mind didn't make me jittery, and I didn't have the usual mid-afternoon crash. And that's probably because Magic Mind includes something called matcha that extends the benefits of caffeine by slowing your body's ability to absorb it and prevents the spike in cortisol levels. It also includes nootropics or nootropics, which helps offset some of the symptoms of ADHD.
And anyone who knows me well, like you do, Ben, knows I need all the help I can get with that. I took my Magic Mind before my first cup of coffee in the morning, and some of the ingredients in this blast of mind juice, along with matcha, include fun things to say like ashwagandha, which I probably couldn't even say without taking the drink. And that reduces stress and anxiety. Lion's mane mushroom that reduces inflammation, prevents neural degeneration, and stimulates neural regeneration. Whitney and I tried it together, and she was able to power through a major work project in a noticeably shorter time, and it has been a game changer for us.
So does that whole neural regeneration thing mean that it makes us smarter, Travis? Because if that's the case, we could probably use a pretty big boost of it.
Oh, yeah. Sign me up for that. I need all the help I can get in that category as well.
Well, if you're like us and you want a little help in that category or some of these others that we've talked about, you can go to www.magicmind.co/healinghumor and get up to 56% off your subscription for the next 10 days with our code HealingHumor20.
We'll get right to our discussion after this short introduction.
This episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast is brought to you in partnership with benandtravis.com.
I'm Travis Creasy. That's All-Pro counselor Ben Hayes.
What's happening in that is Will Mahan right there.
How's it going, guys? Finally, glad to be back. I've been missing for a couple weeks, so good to be with y'all.
It's always good to have you back, Will. You young the place up, and so we take that. And also our awesome guest that's with us, she is doing the same thing, helping us stay young. Kate.
Hey, everybody.
Kate, I'm going to have you say your last name so that we don't redneck it up too bad.
Okay, Gladkykh.
All right. Excellent. But it is good to have you with us. And we're glad that all the folks who are listening are watching on YouTube and Facebook. And of course, we would love for you to subscribe, hit that subscription button. And then along those lines, we're getting ready to give away our big giveaway every year we do for CYC. We're going to be giving away some AirPod headphones or some other headphones. I know last year we had some options. And so it's the 100 podcast review giveaway. And so if we had 100 podcast reviews across combined over our 3 podcasts, then that will unlock a giveaway to someone subscribed at benandtravis.com. So you want to go subscribe, and then you want to go hit the review button. And down in the description, we got the links to the other podcasts. And so I want to encourage you to do that before we get into the meat of this show. And it's going to be a great one. I can already tell. Kate's got a great story to share with us. Mainly to begin, we just want to give honor and glory to the Lord because, man, what an interesting thing to be sitting here with Kate in Muscle Shoals, Alabama.
Yeah.
And we know that wouldn't be possible without the Lord. But without further ado, we're going to let Kate kind of share her story, and I'm going to be quiet. So we'll turn it over to you, Kate.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's very, very honoring to me being here. I mean, I'm very excited that you invited me to kind of talk about my country. It's it's been a year for a lot of people, not just in Ukraine, but I guess we can say especially for Ukrainians. And right now, I go to Tuscumbia Church of Christ, and there's actually 17 of us, if I'm right. And I've been here for almost a year. 2nd of March will be my year being in Alabama. It's been great. It's been interesting, challenging at times, but I feel like maybe challenging for other people as well. Having somebody who came here not just to visit, but came here for an unknown amount of time from the country that's things happening, bad things happening. So
What was you think about? You've been here almost a year in March, so kind of tell us the process of like how you ended up in Tuscumbia, all the way from, of course, Ukraine. So kind of give us maybe what that looked like, what experiences were there, and then kind of just walk us through getting to where we are today.
Right. So, okay. It's very, knowing English in Ukraine, it's been almost always a good thing. And we had tutors, but they were like very expensive. They would charge you a lot of money. And my family did not have that amount of money. And one day I remember one of our neighbors came up to my mom and said, hey, there's like this Church of Christ, and they are, having those English classes for free. And my mom was like surprised, for free. It's like, yeah, but it's like 1-2 times a week. And, if Kate would like to. And my mom told me that. And I was like, of course I'd like to. And then all of my friends were going there, and they wouldn't invite me for the first several weeks. And then I finally said that I really want to go. So they invited me there. We kind of started learning through like short English Bible stories. But it was like Bible story in English. I mean, like easy English. I don't know. It was super hard for me, though. It was never easy. And then Camp Amerikraine happened. If you don't know what Camp Amerikraine is, it's the largest camp in Ukraine of the Christians that was happening first for just children, and then it became more like a family camp. And maybe you can call it like as like family retreat or something for 5-6 days. So through English classes, through knowing that, there's this camp, I started coming to camp in 2005. And in 2006, I was baptized. And I'm in Lord's Church since then.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes.
We're big fans of camp, aren't we?
Oh yeah. Yeah. They we had somebody come and talk to our church congregation there at Riverside about Camp Amerikraine, and that was, man, my jam. I was like, yeah, that's good stuff right there.
Yeah, I think back in the day, probably around that time, there were people from Highland Park, where you're sitting at right now, that went several times to Camp Amerikraine, and then of course Tuscumbia too. So that's an awesome connection, awesome work that I know had to sort of be delayed a little bit. Were they able to do that the last couple of years? I was thinking that maybe there was a change in the schedule a little bit as a result of what's going on.
You would think they were not, but they were, and that is really amazing. And
wow.
Yeah, last year there was only several Americans who were able to come to the western part of Ukraine and Poland, because we have a refugee camp in Poland with lots of people from Ukraine moved in there right now. And we have a lot of people staying in the western of Ukraine because it's like a safer place. It's not safe, but it is a safer place. So yeah, camps actually happened last year, and this year I think there was even like I know there was a retreat in the western Ukraine. So that's pretty awesome.
That's incredible what's happening, even how the church is continuing to flourish and grow, even in the midst of what's happening. So tell us a little bit about the situation where you're from. What's it like right now in, I guess, the town where you're from, and what connections do you still have, or communication do you have with the church over there?
So I'm from the very small town in the eastern part of Ukraine. Is Konstantinovka is the name of it. But with my work, I moved into Kramatorsk, which would be like living in Tuscumbia and moving into Florence somewhere. So pretty close. Yeah. Right now, situation there is not stable. It's not safe, unfortunately. The battles are going on in within an hour of where my parents stay, my sister and nephew stay. So that's really is something that I'm thankful that I'm here, that I can ask everybody who's listening just to pray, not just for my family, but whoever stayed in there, and just to know that your prayers matter, and matter to people like me and all of the other people who are there.
And your family is still there?
They have they had their little journey. They when I was already here, and I was always telling him, hey, please, you need to move. We'll find a way how you can find an opportunity, a place for you to stay somewhere. You have to leave. And they did. They went first to the central part of Ukraine, which is Dnipro. And then they went to Vinnytsia, which is closer to Kiev. But then they are like a lot of people, after like being away a month or two from home, they really wanted to be back. They really wanted to be, where they lived their whole life. So they got back. And my sister actually was able to spend some time in Poland. But then, all of the feelings, I feel like some people can manage that, and she couldn't. And she got back without me knowing, because she knew I would be like angry, disappointed, and all of the feelings. But they all got back, and they do not want to go anywhere for now.
All the feels. I get you.
Yeah.
All the feels. I have enjoyed hearing a little bit of our redneckness has rubbed off on you there.
I'm so glad you're saying
yes,
that.
that's awesome.
For sure got some Southern accent.
I love it. I love it.
Ukraine.
It's so great, because it's great to hear you and to be having this interview. I think it's just really neat. And the internet helps us do things like that. So I appreciate that. I can't even begin to imagine, as I've traveled and been to other countries and got home and wanted to kiss the ground when I got back. And I was gone for 3 weeks. So nothing like a whole year. And so, kind of unpack that, maybe talk about how the church here has helped you. What are some ways in which you've been helped? You've seen the Lord work through the hands and feet of his body, the church here, and maybe encourage people that may be here from somewhere else, whether it's Alabama or anywhere in the States,
Right.
and why they should look and find a body of believers that might help them.
Well, first of all, I know there would be no way possible me staying sane and me staying content for the most part if it wasn't for my church family here. The amount of love and time and just being around people who are, have the same thinking, the same mind, it really means more than you think and I even can explain. There were times where I would be like, I'm in the mood, just like staying in my room, scrolling all of the news challenge on Telegram, on Facebook, just like trying to make sure the people that I know are okay, my family's okay, and what's happening in this city and in that city, and what this person said about like the possibility of this war finally stopping. But because, I was staying for almost a year with two of my very, very good friends, as Jenna and Will Harrison, and their little baby Jack. And it was the best. And the amount of time this baby Jack really saved me from crying and saved me from I don't know. I could have been just like laying in bed and being like in depression, not in depression, but like had those feelings of like, I can't really go back because what would I be doing there? But also, what is my purpose of being here? So these people are really, with all of that, all of the getting together, everybody was so compassionate. It's amazing, really. I think in the first couple of weeks when I came there, they got this idea to make like a prayer session in their house, and they invited some people, mostly from Tuscumbia, but I know some people from Florence been coming there too, who been at camp at least once, and in Ukraine at least once, who was able to make it, and the whole prayer session was really, it was really comforting. It was beautiful. There were several men prayed, and the understanding that people care about you, like God says He cares about you. It was just something that I know my friends from the world struggle finding in this world. Because you can't, and really church family stepped up real big for us and for me and for all of the others. But again, they've done so many things, from like driving me everywhere, which, by the way, I can drive. This is one of the
Probably
things
better
that
than me.
no, you should see me. That's that's something that I wish I learned how to do. And I can drive, so they were driving me everywhere. If I need like a gum, I mean, I don't know. Can you imagine that if you just need a gum, you have to come up to somebody and ask them to drive you to the store so you can get a gum? Mm-hmm. That is, if you think of it, you'll be very thankful that you actually are able to drive. That's, but I mean, really, a lot of things. And whatever you are, whoever is listening to this right now, I highly recommend you to, contact any of us here or whoever, from Church of Christ, and knowing that these people are going to be open for you. Even if you don't know anybody, they'll be fine. You'll make connections. But you just know when you have somebody to rely on in your life, and it's not just people, it's not just one person, it's the whole family. It's most importantly, it's God. You have that's, okay, I actually have somebody that I can come to and tell them my story, and this somebody really cares about me.
Isn't it amazing to like think about the fact that no matter where you go in the world, you have family, and that, if I just all of a sudden found myself in Ukraine or Poland or anywhere, I can find brothers and sisters who have a similar belief system and do the things that I do every week. And I think that's just an amazing thing. So for you to be able to come over here and to be able to share that you found that family that has helped make that transition easier, because you mentioned depression and then you kind of backed off from that. I mean, you've been through the grieving process, no doubt. Grieving your homeland, your family, being apart from them. So in a very real sense, you've encountered grief on some level. And I'm sure there were days that it was hard to put one foot in front of the other.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there were, and they are days, they are. Or somebody came up to me last week, as I said, I think, and said, I mean, you don't look like you're a person who'd be like questioning some things that's happening in your life. And I looked at this person and said, hey, well, maybe I'm hiding it too well, because I do have those days. Yeah. I do have those days when I'm struggling and when I'm, just cannot find answers to all of the questions, but also who can find the answers to all of the questions. So.
I think God, and we've stated this before, He's not afraid of your questions. You can,
I was about to say,
ask those things.
Yeah.
Even shake your fist at Him sometimes. And he's big enough to handle that. I go back this past summer, I came to Tuscumbia for the summer series, and I was talking about suffering. And I got done with my sermon and kind of sat down. They're like, well, we were broadcasting this in Ukraine, and we were translating it. And I'm like, I'm sitting over here talking about suffering, and some people, from Ukraine, like I know anything about suffering, but it isn't a comparison. But it's really neat that can happen, that we have the internet, we can communicate. And of course, the gospel is going to use that and use the stories that we have. And I think so many people get caught up in being good presenters of that, when really God just wants to tell our story. And most people are much more interested in an individual's story than the kind of minute details of this text and scripture like us nerds all love. But they want to hear what God has done in your life. And so what a great story. And we're all praying for a good outcome. Of course, we know that as long as we remain faithful to him, there's going to be a good outcome, because God wins. God wins all the conflict.
Yeah.
We just obviously are hoping for peace soon, for all those who are
And
fighting
victory.
and defending, and victory. Yes, victory.
It was
Very much so.
interesting when you were telling that. Philippians 4, and Ben, I know this is one of your favorite verses, just came to my mind because you said there's just kind of this, I can't explain it, like this God thing. And all that kept going through my mind was, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, and you mentioned like through that prayer and that group, there was peace. But like the thing that I loved is like the content. I feel content because of what God's done. And I thought, man, what a lesson for all of us to even realize like there's someone among us that's not from here that is content because of what God's family has done. And how many more people need that? They're living in our backyards even right now. So just a powerful story, powerful stuff.
When I think about the conflict and when the conflict started, obviously, if I remember correctly, Camp Amerikraine is there. I know at one point there was good relations, or at least better relations, with Russia, and I wondered how, when everything started, what was the response of the church in Ukraine to the whole thing? Because obviously, living where we do, we've not had to experience I guess we have, but in a little bit different scenario, that enemy attacking in such a real way like that. I remember 9/11. When all that happened, I remember the emotions, that came with that, and the frustration, and us all sitting around in the dorm room talking about, what we want to do and how, angry we are. So I'm just curious as to that sort of emotion that was taking place within the church, especially, in Ukraine when it first happened. What was the response? And then what was the, I guess, secondary response once you started kind of seeing what was happening?
Right. Well, I remember I do have some friends in Russia. I have relatives in Russia. My aunt lives in Russia. My uncle lives in Russia. My dad is originally from Russia. I mean, he is Ukrainian now, but it really, I mean, to the extent when we would know like two languages. I do know, and it's nothing like super big or anything like that. I'm not trying to brag on myself, but I do know Ukrainian and Russian just because my parents speak Russian, and I was going to school, and 11 years in school was all Ukrainian. Every subject, every single thing was in Ukrainian. So we're really pretty close, I guess, some people, because, friends, families, and all of that. But I do remember when it happened first time. I do remember my mom and dad talking to my aunt. And even at that point in 2013 and 14, they were already in such a bubble. Like it was impossible to reach out to them, and impossible to say like, hey, that's what's happening. That's crazy. Your guys come in and just like saying, hey, we want to have this territory back, as they say. And we want to also have this territory because we want it. And I remember there was a conflict between them, and they haven't spoke spoken for some time between each other with each other, but I guess it kind of like, I mean, got better, and they decided they're not going to be talking about it. And I know there's some men at church, you know, we do have Churches of Christ in Russia that would reach out to them. And I even remember having this unity day in Kramatorsk. There were some people from Russia coming specifically for that, just because it was so like encouraging and so much needed. But there's still people who would think, hey, we need to save you. Like we're really, you're there and it's bad, and we come in here, we need to save you. So it's honestly, it's there. A lot of people are just so brainwashed and live in their own little world. They did such a great job with advertising, was just saying, hey, poor Ukrainians, we do not know how they been doing this time without us. It just really came up to the extent that I think we as a nation of Ukraine, we hear what people are saying, but we stopped listening to them at this point, because they've done so much. It's like, I know there's this point when you can't. I know the Bible says and the God says that we can come to God at every point, but it just seems with all of the cruelty that they've done to our country, it seems like they're so far away. And there are some people here in Florence that are from Russia, but they've been here for some time now, for like several years. And I mean, we are friendly and we're friends, and they're coming to our Ukrainian get together things. And I mean, but they're still, I guess the majority of people in Russia really think that what is happening is right. Mm-hmm. And it's frustrating.
People.
Right.
People stink things up. And, that's true of everything. Yeah. And that's why it's so important to me to think of a God who's going to set things right. And if we trust that, then that frees us up to be friendly to people, right, even if they don't necessarily want to be friendly to us, or they have a wrong thinking. Because, man, how many times have I been wrong thinking? How many times on this podcast, man's probably sitting over there going,
quite a bit.
No idea what he's talking about. Or we get in our set preconceived, and the Bible warns us of that, to take every thought captive. Is this how God sees this? Is this how God would want us to conduct ourselves? And I can't imagine. I have a hard enough with sports, the things I text these guys over a basketball game, and that's nothing compared to the things that you're going through, your family's going through. And it's so easy for us as an American to sit over here and go, well, that's over there. And well, that doesn't really affect us. And I think that's kind of a similar approach. Like, if I just stick my head in the sand, or I can just be in my bubble and not think about that. And to be honest, I can tell myself, I don't wake up every day thinking about Ukraine and all the things that are going over there. And I think that's a trap that we fall into, that there are people suffering everywhere, and we're so comfortable over here that we can ignore. If we do see somebody that's truly in the public eye suffering, it's so minute in our sight that it's easy to just drive by and not really consider that person. But everybody is going through something.
This episode of the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast is brought to you by Heritage Christian University. The mission of Heritage Christian University is simple. We aim to advance the churches of Christ by equipping servants through undergraduate and graduate programs. HCU produces effective communicators of the gospel, focusing on evangelism and a commitment to Scripture. Heritage Christian University offers the following degrees: Associate of Arts in Biblical Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Biblical Studies, Master of Arts, Master of Ministry, and a Master of Divinity. HCU is accredited by the Association for Biblical Higher Education. Since 1968, Heritage Christian University has offered affordable degrees in biblical studies, allowing graduates to thrive in their ministries without the burden of loan debt. For more information about Heritage Christian University, visit www.hcu.edu.
Well, Kate, the question of the day, and this is a question that you have to answer living in the state of Alabama. It's just one of those things.
You have to declare.
You have to declare.
You have to.
And growing up here, I lived in a Roll Tide family, and I often tell my daughter as we live in Tennessee, she's like, "Now, who do we cheer for?" I said, "Well, never Tennessee. So, anybody but them. But we're Alabama." And they're like, "Well, why?" And I said, "Well, because where I grew up, you didn't eat if you didn't say Roll Tide." So that was kind of the password. But I don't want you to feel any pressure from being surrounded by Alabama people.
But there's pressure.
Okay, but there is pressure. So, Kate, when it comes down to Alabama or Auburn, who we?
I'm afraid if I say Auburn, I'm going to leave this country tonight.
I don't have quite that power. I don't have that power, Kate.
Some other people do. So
Some other people do.
But yeah, Alabama Roll Tide, of course. There's no other answer.
Other than Christ, I think that's my favorite thing that you said. And you do, if you notice, she says Church of Christ. So she's got that country. I'm telling you that.
She
that
has
red
got it.
North Alabama.
I want the best for people.
There you go.
Just,
I love it. I love it. I love it. That Roll Tide, you saying that in the accent, that might be my ringtone or something. So I don't know.
Now, if you ask me some questions about football, I don't know.
That's okay. That's okay. No.
I love the color. I wear a T-shirt.
Yeah.
I wanted to wear a T-shirt.
You answered correctly.
I was
Okay,
on the way back from Africa, and the guy sitting beside me had an Alabama shirt on. He was like, "Nick Saban, he's like one of the most important people in the world, right?" I was like, "That is right." So, yeah,
Correct.
You just know one or two things, but we'll claim you.
Correct.
That's good. That's good.
That's fantastic.
Well, Kate, we cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your Sunday afternoon to come sit with us goons
Yeah,
and talk and give your story. And we're obviously, I'm already determined we're going to have you back because I know there's more stuff,
Hey,
more layers.
this platform that you're doing, it really means a lot, not just to people here, I'm sure, but to people like me. And as I said, I was in Ukraine, was listening to your podcast, and I've never even thought I'll be here talking about Ukraine. So thank you for giving me this
Absolutely.
opportunity.
Well, we appreciate you.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.